Well, welcome everybody to our MGO Lunch and Learn. We are very excited that Justin was able to join us again this week. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be here in person, but he is actually doing it remote for us. So Justin, I'm gonna let you go ahead and start because I know we have a lot to accomplish.
Sure. Thank you,
So
Kim.
take it away.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, sorry I couldn't be there in person. I'm battling a cold and some bruised ribs, which are not a good combo. But excuse me, my voice is a lot better than it was yesterday, so that's good. But so welcome and thank everybody here for joining me today. Today's session is going to be called Approaching and Living in Retirement, and it's all about preparing for the next chapter of your life. So, whether retirement is just around the corner or if you're still a few years away, it's never too early or too late to start planning wisely. So, think of this as a message to your future self. What kind of retirement do you want to live, and how can you prepare now to make that a reality? So today what we're going to do is cover 10 retirement to-dos, which are essential steps to help you retire with confidence. So these to-dos go beyond just money. So it's going to cover your lifestyle, healthcare, social security, estate planning, and other stuff like that. So think of this as kind of a checklist for retirement, which are things to work through before you actually begin the process to help you feel a little bit more secure. So before we begin, just a quick note on today's material. So everything we're covering here today is for informational purposes only. It's not a specific financial, tax, or legal advice. Everybody's situation is different and they are fluid. So I encourage all of you to reach out to me if you want to understand how this material applies to your personal goals and your individual situation. So remember too, rules and tax laws do change over time. So it is important to make sure that you keep up to date on your retirement plan. Okay, so let's start here with longevity. So people today are living longer than ever before, which is good news. So kind of thinking back to the 1950s, the average life expectancy, and this is not gender specific, but average life expectancy was about 68 years old. Once we got into the 80s, it did bump up to 73, 74 years old. Early 2000s, we were at 77 to 78 years old. And 2019, pre-pandemic, life expectancy was almost 79 years. So it did change a little bit after the pandemic, but we have kind of steadily increased life expectancies throughout time. But the downside of that is that we have to make our money last longer in retirement. So studies have shown that 6 in 10 baby boomers are more afraid of running out of money in retirement than they actually are of dying. So that's a pretty powerful statistic. And planning for a long retirement, which could be 20, 30, maybe even 40 years, is one of the smartest things that you can do. So next, we're going to think about what type of lifestyle you want to live in retirement. So are you planning on doing a lot of traveling? Are you going to stay close to home so that you can be with the grandkids or take up new hobbies or volunteer? So research has shown to maintain your current standard of living in retirement, you're going to need up to or approximately 80% of your pre-retirement income. So this step here is about envisioning what your retirement could look like and determining the costs that are going to come with that. So some common expenses to consider are mortgages. You may or may not have your home paid off by the time you get to retirement. This is something that happens pretty frequently, depending on, housing situation and where interest rates are. And, if you refinance in the middle of a term, you may still have, 10 years plus on your mortgage going into retirement. Also think about utilities, car payments, other type of fixed monthly expenses. And then also you got to plan for the fun stuff. So plan for your leisure activities. So thinking back to traveling, hobbies, stuff like that. So retirement is something, and I've been doing this for about 15 years. And retirement, this is very true. Retirement means different things to many different people, and it means vastly different things. So for some, you think of the classic vision of, full-time relaxation, sitting on the beach, drinking a Mai Tai or whatever the case is. For others, it's a chance to start something new. Maybe they get into consulting. Maybe they want to get a part-time job or pursue a different passion project or do art or whatever the case is. But as of right now, about 20% of people over the age of 65 are still working. Now, that is some of that could be by choice, some of that could be by necessity. But defining what retirement means for you personally is a key step in shaping your overall retirement plan. So your retirement income is likely to come from a combination or at least one of these four main sources. So the first one is a pension. So one thing to keep in mind about a pension is it's only about 15% of private sector that are non-union employees are still covered by a pension. So pensions are few and far between. You don't see them very often anymore, but they are still out there. So that's kind of the first type of income that you could have in retirement. The other is going to be personal savings. So this is money that you have stocked away in a savings or a checking account. The third would be an employer-sponsored retirement plan, like the one you have here through Quadix, which is a 401k. And the fourth is Social Security. So it's very important to understand how much you can expect from each of these sources and how reliable they are and when you can start accessing them. So a diversified income plan can provide a lot more stability through retirement as long as you understand where the sources of income are coming and how likely they are to be consistent. So as you approach retirement, one of the very big decisions that you have to do with your 401k or any other employer-sponsored retirement plans is figuring out what's going to happen to them in retirement. So there's a couple different options as to what you can do, and each of these options have different implications for them. Whether different taxes, fees, flexibility, risk levels. So it's a very good topic to explore with me before you retire, to kind of understand what your options are and what may make sense most for you in your situation. So the four main types of options that you have. First one is going to be you might want to choose to roll it out into an IRA. So this option is often recommended because it gives you a lot greater control over your assets and investment choices. So once you retire and if you decide to roll that money into an IRA, you are no longer bound by the investment options that are available within the 401k. You have pretty much a complete open architecture in terms of investment universe. So if you look at the investment options that are available to you within the 401k, everything is going to be mutual fund based, which is fantastic. Mutual funds are great. But if you go outside of the plan, you now have access to ETFs, you have access to individual equities or stock, individual fixed income bonds. You could do there's a lot of different ways that you can go about allocating your money that you may not have the option to do inside the plan. Um, Another option would be to take a lump sum. This is the option that I would not recommend. But if you need cash right away, this is an option for you. But keep in mind, you will lose the ability to continue to earn tax deferred growth, and you will also have to pay taxes on that at that point. And that's why I say that I wouldn't recommend doing this all at one time, because you can significantly increase your taxable income for the year, and it may bump you up into a different tax bracket. So another one would be to receive periodic distributions. So you can do this directly from your 401k, or you could even choose other options like maybe buying an annuity, or maybe even setting up systematic distributions where you know how much money you're going to want, per month, and you choose the day of the month that you'd like to get paid on, and we can withhold the taxes for you, and that money can go into your checking or savings like a paycheck, basically. Um, the fourth option would be to stay in the plan. So you have the ability to keep your money in the 401k if you so choose, as long as you'd like. And basically, the way that the rules are written, as long as you have $5,000 or more, you can remain in the plan as long as you'd like. So that is an option that may or may not be the best option for you. But if you're considering any of these options and you're kind of near that time period now, or you're just planning for the future, feel free to contact me and I can kind of explain a little bit more detail what the options are and what may make most sense for you. Excuse my voice, I apologize. So another huge question in retirement is when should you start taking your Social Security benefits? So you can start as early as age 62, but if you do, your benefits will be permanently reduced. So you can see on the chart here, if you do file at age 62, it will be about 70% of your full retirement benefit. And then as you see, you could do 63. I mean, at any age, you can file early, but it is reduced. So at age 63, you'd be entitled to 75% of your benefits, all the way up until the majority of you, your full retirement age will probably be age 67. Now, it does depend on your birth year, but just for this example here, we're going to use age 67 as being your full retirement age. At that point, you would be entitled to your full benefit. Um, After age 67, the longer you delay, the bigger the benefit that you can accrue. So if you wait until age 68, instead of getting your full retirement benefit, you get 108% of that full benefit, all the way up until age 70, where you can get 124% of your full benefit. Now, which one of these are right for you? It's really tough to decide because I would say that the main determining factor on which one makes most financial sense is life expectancy. And of course, that isn't something that we know. If we did, we'd be a lot better off. But I created a spreadsheet here that I can share with you if you know what your full retirement benefit is. And I'll kind of give you an example of it here. I know this is a very busy looking spreadsheet, but it's not as confusing as it may look. So here, let me move this so I can see. Okay, so this is an example for somebody that their full retirement age is 67. And let's say in today's dollars, their full benefit is $3,500 a month. So what this spreadsheet tells us is basically year by year what the aggregate benefit is going to be at different ages. So if you'll see on the left-hand side of this, and let me get my pointer here if I can find it.
Can you zoom in here?
Can
Can you zoom in? Can you guys read those numbers at all?
Don't see my. Hang on. Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I got my laser pointer here. Okay, so on the left-hand side here, you'll see a variety of different ages from 62 through 100. And let's say, for example, this person here at age 67. If we know what our life expectancy is, or we have an estimate based on family history, let's just say, for example, if we think we're going to live until 84, for example, we can go here and then we can look to the right and we can look at all these different benefit options for the one that is the greatest. So in this case, if this person were to live until they were 84, they would get the largest lifetime benefit out of deferring until age 70. Now, alternatively, if your life expectancy is a little bit shorter, let's just say, for example, maybe it's 75, like it was back in the 50s. Let's see, the most effective way for this person to go about doing Social Security would be to file at age 62, where their total lifetime benefit would be $411 versus like if they were to file at their full retirement age, it would only be $378,000 over the course of their lifetime. So this is just, like I said, this is just an example, and it could, I could always run these for you if you'd like to kind of see where your greatest benefit could, in theory, fall. But of course, not a perfect science because we have no idea how long we're going to live. But it just gives a good frame point, reference point. So healthcare is something that's often overlooked in retirement planning, and unfortunately, it is one of retirement's biggest expenses. So Medicare is a federal health insurance program for people who are 65 or older, and it's likely to be a core part of your healthcare coverage. Medicare has several different parts to it, but it doesn't cover everything. So it is important to understand what it includes, what it doesn't include. Think of dental, vision, long-term care. So Medicare Part A is what would be considered hospital insurance. So think of this as coverage for when you're admitted to the hospital. So basically paying for hospital stays. It could be skilled nursing facilities. like after a hospital stay, hospice, sometimes home health care, it could or could not be included. Most people don't pay a monthly premium for Part A if either they or their spouse paid Medicare taxes during their working years. So something to keep in mind, it may or may not have a premium. Now, Medicare Part B is medical insurance. So this covers your everyday medical services outside of the hospital. Think doctor visits, outpatient care, x-rays, that would be lab testing, blood work, preventative services like flu shots or different types of annual screenings, durable medical equipment like walkers or wheelchairs. This Medicare Part B is something that you do pay a monthly premium for, and there may be a deductible as well as copays. Medicare Part D, which is prescription drug coverage, this is the part of Medicare that helps cover the cost of your prescription medications. So it is offered through, excuse me, it is offered through private insurance companies that are all approved by Medicare, and it covers the most common drugs that you may need to take here as you age, but specific coverage does vary plan to plan. This is Medicare Part D is something that you will need to pay a monthly premium for, as well as deductibles and possible copays. So like I said earlier, healthcare costs are something that is expected to be probably your second largest expense in retirement. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't prepare for them. So, those premiums, the deductibles, the copays, any type of uncovered services, it could really add up. I mean, as we all know how expensive healthcare is. But there are tools that can give you an idea of what healthcare costs could, in theory, cost you in retirement. Nationwide does have a healthcare estimator, which is a really cool tool to get a general idea of what that could cost you. One key I would say is make sure that you don't underestimate this category. So the question that I get a lot is, what if the assets that they've accumulated aren't enough, or maybe you simply want to have a cushion to cover those costs. Some of those options could be to continue working a little bit longer. If you were originally planning on retiring at 65, maybe push it back a few years. By doing that, you can further delay your Social Security benefits and get a larger benefit, which could help cover those unforeseen costs. I would recommend that you maybe work with me, or if you have an outside advisor, to come up with a strategy for retirement in terms of taking withdrawals to make sure that you're able to cover those expenses. So okay. So long-term care is a topic that makes people kind of uncomfortable to talk about, just because it could be a little bit awkward. But it's something that's extremely important, and it isn't something that you should ignore. So this includes having help with everyday tasks. So think of like, bathing, dressing, eating. It's one of those things that are often needed due to just aging, or if you have a specific illness, or a disability. So about 70% of people in retirement will need some sort of long-term care, yet only about 14% of people actually plan for it. So long-term care, there is an insurance, a long-term care insurance that you can go out there and buy, or you can set aside savings for the purpose of protecting your finances and giving you more choices for what you can do as far as how to cover that long-term care expense. So in many cases, that long-term care is provided at home by informal caregivers. So that could be family members, it could be friends, it could be neighbors. Home-based care can also be supplemented by formal caregivers who are paid for their services. So these caregivers, this can include nurses, home health care aides, it could be therapists, it could be other types of professionals like that. And they can help older people with many aspects of healthcare, with giving medications, making sure that not just giving medications, but making sure that the schedules are followed and those medications are taken at the correct times, caring for different types of wounds, helping with different medical equipment, maybe even providing physical therapy, stuff like that. So this is what I was kind of mentioning before, about 14% of people actually plan for it. So long-term care insurance is something that can be a very valuable tool when it comes to financial planning, but it may not be right for everyone. So it's important to understand the benefits that you can get from a policy like that and what the drawbacks can be before you make a decision. So long-term care insurance, of course, you're going to have to pay premiums. And later on, if you need that long-term care, the insurance company is going to reimburse you for the covered expenses. And it's typically up to a set amount, like a daily amount or a monthly amount. So based on the different policies that they offer and the different premiums, there may be a maximum coverage per day that you're entitled to. But that is something that's definitely worth exploring. Um, So while anybody can benefit, it's often considered more important for the individual who has a longer family history of long-term health issues, or those who have substantial assets and they want to find a way to protect those assets. Long-term care insurance, if any of you have looked into it, you know how expensive it is. It's very, very costly, but it can be a very valuable tool, depending on your situation. So finally, don't forget about the emotional and the social aspects of retirement. So staying active and staying socially connected with friends and family, it can help prevent a lot of emotional and physical ailments as you age. So think of hobbies, volunteering, different types of fitness activities, learning new skills. This can all add to happiness and joy in retirement. Um, so retirement it's one of those things, it's way more about just financial security. I know a lot of you probably think when you're thinking of retirement and retirement planning as purely monetary, but you can't forget that it's also about enjoying this phase of your life. So I'm going to bring up this milestones here. So there's a lot of different age-related milestones to be aware of, and we'll kind of go through them here one by one. So as you approach age 50, this is when you are now eligible to make catch-up contributions to your retirement accounts. So for the 401k, and this is as of this year, and this is something that can change annually. It usually doesn't change every year, but it does change, every few years typically. So right now, the additional catch-up contributions for the 401k is an additional $7,500 per year, and that's for the 401k. For IRAs, you can contribute an additional $1,000 per year. Once you hit age 59 and a half, you are now eligible to take assets out of the employer-sponsored plan without that 10% early withdrawal penalty. Now, keep in mind, this is something that varies plan to plan. If you're currently working for the company that you're trying to take money out of at age 59 and a half, you may or may not be allowed to do that, dependent on the way the plan is set up. But a lot of plans do allow you to start taking distributions at age 59 and a half while you're working. So age 62 is the earliest that you can start taking your Social Security. Of course, going back to a couple slides ago, your benefit will be reduced, but you do have the ability to begin to flip that income switch on at age 62. So depending on your birth year, age 65 to 67 is the time period where you're entitled to your full retirement benefit. Excuse me one second here. Sorry about that. So that can vary between age 65 and 67. Age 70 is the latest that you can start receiving Social Security benefits, and that is the highest benefit amount. And last but not least is 73. So 73 is when you are needing to take RMDs, or required minimum distributions. So this is basically a set amount that you need to remove from your retirement accounts on an annual basis. So once you hit age 73, the way that it works is there is, if you look on there's websites that have different RMD tables where it'll show you your age and then it'll show you a divisor. So essentially what we're doing, if we're managing the money, is we are calculating what that RMD is going to be for you. And we look at the prior year end balance. So whatever the balance was on all of your retirement accounts as of 12/31 of the year prior, and then you divide that by that particular divisor. And then that is the amount that you need to remove from your retirement accounts for the year. It typically equates to about 4% of the account value that you have, and that's per year. Now, there are a couple caveats. So, any IRAs, you always have to take RMDs from. Now, if you are working, you are still working for the company that you have a 401k through, and you are still working after age 73, you may be able to delay taking those RMDs. It could be different if you are part of the ownership group or you have relation to the ownership group. There are some different rules. But all in all, if you're 73, 74, 75, and you decide to continue to keep working and you have substantial assets in that retirement plan, you may or may not be eligible to delay those RMDs. So you can continue to accumulate tax deferral. So estate planning is something that it sounds kind of fancy, and some people think that it might be just for the wealthy, but that's definitely not the case. So it's definitely for anyone who wants to have a say now in how their assets are distributed at death. So your estate includes everything from your home to your car to your savings accounts to your retirement accounts, even personal items. So if you have, you know, um, something that means a lot to me, you have a piano or, different types of artwork that's valuable, you can have a say now in how all of that is distributed at the time of your death. So without a plan, and if you don't have a will, unfortunately, the state can decide what happens to your assets. And I don't think anybody would really like, an unknown person or group of people deciding how all your assets are distributed. So a good estate plan can also help reduce taxes. It can protect your loved ones. It can ensure that your wishes are followed. The benefits of estate planning can go beyond just money. Like I said, it can provide peace of mind, especially as you consider, what your potential health issues can be or what your future needs are. So a will, a power of attorney, a healthcare directive, making sure that all of your beneficiaries are all lined up and accurate. They're all really key pieces to estate planning. And it's a powerful way that you can protect not only your assets, but your family as well. Okay, so that is the end of the presentation. So I am going to open this up here to questions. So I have the Q&A box here, and then I'll read them. Okay, so first question I have here is, what about rolling money into a Roth option? So if the money that you have is all pre-tax, and when you retire, you wanted to roll that and basically convert that money into Roth, you can do that. So you are eligible to do that. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I would recommend doing it because it is going to be a taxable event. So let's just say, for example, you're 66 and you roll that money out of the 401k that's pre-tax into an IRA, and then you convert that over to Roth. Let's just say, to make round numbers, you have $100,000. That money that you convert, that would basically be like you getting a $100,000 check or a bonus check from work. All of it's going to be taxable up front. So depending on your particular situation, it may benefit you, it may not. But that's something that if you wanted to give me a call or shoot me an email, I can always help you out and kind of give you a little bit more detail on your own personal situation for that one. Okay, so Janet, you said that the people in the room had questions on that prior slide. I didn't see that. If those people want to put that in the chat or in the Q&A, I'll answer it as I go down here. So can we move money into our 401k in the future when we're no longer working and use it as a retirement source? The answer to that is unfortunately no. So the only time that you can contribute to a 401k plan is via payroll deduction and being employed. So you do need to be currently employed to contribute to that plan. Now, that's not to say that you can't save if you no longer have access to that plan. So if you are retired or you move on to a different job and they don't have a plan, they don't offer a plan, there are a couple different ways that you can go about it. You can do and these depend on your level of income. There could be some issues with it, but let's just say for most people, you can contribute to a traditional IRA, you can contribute to a Roth IRA, you can contribute to a taxable account such as an individual or a joint account. You can do put money into savings account and like get CDs with a bank. You can still save, but you can't unfortunately do it within the 401k. And then I got the follow-up that says moving money from an IRA to a 401k. The answer to that is if you're no longer working for the company with the 401k, you can't move money from an IRA into the plan with the company that you're no longer working for. If you're working for them, you probably can. Every plan is a little bit different. But if you're no longer working for that company, you can't consolidate like that. What you can do is do the opposite. You can take the 401k that you have and then roll that into the IRA that you already have established. You can do that. Then I got about the Secure Act 2.0. Yes, there are new rules that came basically between ages in your early 60s where you can contribute a little bit more. It's kind of a confusing rule. I didn't want to get too far in depth with that. You typically what we do as a firm is when people are making catch-up contributions, we do like to reach out to those individual people who are doing that to explain that they can do more. But we do send out notices that are kind of explaining that you can do that. And that is something that we have sent out on an annual basis. But yes, that is a very good point that you can contribute a little bit more, but you have to be between the ages of 60 and 63. So if you're likely retiring during the current administration, should you consider freezing investments to protect against further losses? So I'd say this is a tough question to answer because it is kind of a political type of thing, possibly. So I don't want to get political at all, but I would say in general, I mean, what's best for you financially and best for you in terms of your investment accounts may or may not be what's best for you emotionally as far as how volatile the market can be. So it's one of those things that if you're having trouble sleeping at night and you're really, really scared that the market's going to crash, I would say probably the best thing to do financially is to ride it out. I mean, that could or could not be, everybody's situation is different. But history has shown that weathering the storm has typically been the best thing to do. Now, if you are really scared and you're already at or exceeding what you think your goals are for retirement, then yeah, I would say it may make sense to do something much more conservative and maybe move to a stable value account or something along those lines to protect against possible losses. But it really kind of depends person to person and what your goals are. But like I said, I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but like, what makes most sense, maybe dollars and cents wise, if it may not be a good thing for you if it's going to significantly increase your stress and stuff like that. But I would say, if you wanted to reach out to me personally and you wanted to kind of talk through different scenarios and kind of my thoughts on, what could or, in theory happen, I'd be happy to do that. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go back to the Social Security benefits screen, and somebody wanted me to zoom in on it a little bit here. So I believe, I'm not sure if it was this one or the other one. I'm assuming it's this one just because it is probably kind of small. Let me see if I can zoom this here. Okay, so okay, so here it is, a zoomed in version. So I can't do the whole thing like this, but basically I'll kind of re-explain what these numbers mean. So based on this particular person or this, theoretical example, based on their full retirement age being 67, let me get my laser pointer. Oh, I can't do both at the same time. Sorry.
Well, this is, you get the sound.
Oh, I can't do laser pointing. Okay, I won't do laser pointing. Okay, so basically what this means is this person's full retirement age is 67 and their full retirement benefit is $3,500 a month. So going over here, we see age 67. This is 100% of their benefit being $3,500 a month, and that's an annual benefit of 42,000. So year one, they take their benefit, so they've earned 42,000. The next year, they get another 42,000, which is now 84. The next year, they get another 42,000, which is now 126, and so on and so forth. So I didn't adjust this for inflation at all, just to make it simple. But basically, that this is looking at your lifetime benefit as you age. So is this kind of what you were wanting to look at a little bit closer up?
Justin, can you hear us?
I can.
Now.
Oh, okay. So I think we need to wrap this up here. Let's see, do you have any tools that show much? So I would say if you have any questions that I didn't answer, feel free to reach out to me, shoot me an email, give me a phone call. I'd be happy to help with any additional questions. Sorry for going over them on the time. I apologize. Okay, so that wraps up everything. So thank you everybody for joining. I really appreciate it.